Dongal greetings! I'm Leah Veronica Pingol, the leader of Group 6, and together with my members, Daniela Pinaso, Ella Ibanez, Glycel Irish Erandio, Rich John Importante, and John Patrick Gubot, we will be discussing the meaning, history, and more necessary information about Theravada Buddhism. Pero bago tayo mag-proceed, let's first answer the test yourself. For the first question, what is the language of Theravada called? A. Palo, B. Pala, C. Pali. For the second question, what is the meaning of Theravada in Pali? A. Doctrine of the Elders, B. Doctrina Christiana, and C. Doctrine of Nirvana. For the last question, from which country did Theravada Buddhism originate? A. Philippines, B. India, and C. Indonesia. What is Theravada? Theravada, the doctrine of the elders, is the school of Buddhism that draws its scriptural inspiration from the Tipitaka, or Pali Canon, which scholars generally agree contains the earliest surviving record of the Buddha's teachings. For many countries, Theravada has been the predominant religion of continental Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka. Today, Theravada Buddhists number well over 100 million worldwide. In recent decades, Theravada has begun to take root in the West. Theravada is the most commonly accepted name of Buddhism's oldest extant school, na preserve ng adherents nila yung teachings ni Buddha sa Pali Canon, kaya prevalent pa rin sila as a sect of Buddhism until now. In-emphasize nila yung pag-attain ng self-liberation through their own efforts by living through the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Paths na i-discuss mamaya, and through that, nare-reach nila yung state of enlightenment or what we call now as Nirvana. Many Buddhisms want Dhamma Vinaya. The Buddha, the awakened one, called the religion he founded Dhamma Vinaya, the doctrine and discipline, to provide a social structure supportive of the practice of the Dhamma Vinaya, or Dhamma for short, and to preserve these teachings for posterity. The Buddha established the order of bhikkhus or monks and bhikkhunis or nuns, the Sangha, which continues to this day to pass his teachings on to subsequent generations of lay people and monastics alike. As the Dhamma continued its spread across India after the Buddha's passing, differing interpretations of the original teachings arose, which led to schisms with the Sangha and the emergence of as many as 18 distinct sects of Buddhism. One of these schools eventually gave rise to a reform movement that called itself Mahayana, the greater vehicle, and that referred to the other schools despairingly as Hinayana, or the lesser vehicle. What we call Theravada today is the sole survivor of those early non-Mahayana schools. To avoid the pejorative tone implied by the terms of Hinayana and Mahayana, it is common today to use more neutral language to distinguish between these two main branches of Buddhism. Because Theravada historically dominated Southern Asia, it is sometimes called Southern Buddhism, while Mahayana, which migrated northwards from India into China, Tibet, Japan, and Korea, is known as Northern Buddhism.
Dangal greetings everyone, Dangal greetings Sir Jerome. I'm Gubot John Patrick. Here are the Four Nobles of Truths. Number 1 is dukkha. Dukkha is a Pali word from Buddhist philosophy which means suffering and unsatisfactoriness. All beings experience pain and misery during their lifetime. Birth is pain, old age is pain, sickness is pain, death is pain, sorrow, grief and anxiety is pain, contact with unpleasant is pain, separating from pleasant is pain, not getting what wants is pain. In short, 5 assembles of mind and matter that is our subject to attachment are pain. Number 2 is Samaduya. Samaduya is usually translated as the cause of suffering, and here are the specific causes of suffering or pain and misery. It is the desire that leads to rebirth, accompanied by pleasure and passion. Seeking pleasure here and there, that is desire for pleasure. The desire for existence, the desire for non-existence. Number 3 is Nirodha, which means the cessation or the end of the pain and misery, and it can only be achieved with followings. With the complete non-passion and cessation of this very desire, with its abandonment and renunciation, with its liberation and detachment from it. The method we must follow to stop pain and misery is that of the Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Paths. Number 1 is Samadhi or the right view. Right view is the understanding of things as they are. Number 2, Sama Sankappa or the right thought. Right thought denotes the thoughts of selfless renunciation on detachment, thoughts of love and thoughts of non-violence which extended to all beings. Ito ay tumutukoy sa pagbago ng ating mga paniniwala at intensyon upang maging wasto at maiwasan ang pinsala sa ating sarili o sa iba. Number 3, Samavaka or the right speech. Right speech means abstention from telling lies, from backbiting and slander and talk that may bring about hatred, enmity, disunity and disharmony among individuals or group of people, from harsh, rude, impolite, malicious and abusive language, and from idle, useless and foolish babble and gossip. Layunin ng Samavaka na gabayan ng mga tao sa tamang paraan ng pamumuhay at pakikisama sa iba. Number 4, Samakamanta or the right action. Right action aims at promoting moral, honorable, and peaceful conduct. 5. Sama Ajiva or right livelihood. Right livelihood means that one should abstain from making one's living through a professional that brings harm to others, such as trading in arms and lethal weapons, intoxicating drinks or poison, killing animals, cheating, etc. And it should live by a professional which is honorable, blameless, and innocent of harm to others. Ang konsepto ng Sama Ajiva ay upang maiwasan ng mga gawaing hindi makatuwiran at magkaroon ng tamang pananaw sa buhay. Number 6, right effort or the Samavayama. Right effort is the energetic will to prevent evil and unwholesome state of mind from arising, and to get rid of such evil and unwholesome state that have already arisen within a man, and also to produce, to cause, to arise good and wholesome state of mind not yet arisen, and to develop and bring to perfection to good and wholesome state of mind already present in a man. Ang Samavayama ay tumutukoy sa tamang pagsikap na ginagawa upang makakuha ng mataas na antas sa kamalayan ng pag-unawa ng tinuturo ng Budismo. Number 7, right mindfulness or samasati. Right mindfulness is to be diligently aware, mindful, and attentive with regarded to number 1, kaya, the activities of the body. 2, vedana, sensation or feelings. 3, sita, the activities of the mind. And 4, dhamma, ideas, thoughts, conception, and things. Karaniwang tumutukoy ang samasati sa pagiging kamalayan sa lahat ng aspeto ng ating karanasan, mula sa mga pisikal na senyales at sensasyon hanggang sa ating mga emosyon at kaisipan. And number 8, sama samadhi or right concentration. The third and last factor of mental discipline is right the concentration, leading to the 4 stages of dhyana, generally called trance or reculement. Ang sama samadhi ay tumutukoy sa estado ng konsentrasyon o meditative absorption na humahantong sa isang malalim na pakiramdam ng katahimikan. Pana or discernment. The Eightfold Path is best understood as a collection of personal qualities to be developed, rather than as a sequence of steps along a linear path. The development of right view and right resolve, the factors classically identified with wisdom and discernment. So, sa discernment, dito nabubuo yung dalawang nakapaloob sa Eightfold Paths, which is yung right view and right thought or resolve. Facilitates the development of right speech, actions, and livelihood, the factors identified with virtue. As virtue develops, so do the factors identified with concentration, like right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Likewise, as concentration matures, discernment evolves to a still deeper level, and so the process unfolds. Development of one factor fosters development of the next, lifting the practitioner in upward spiral of spiritual maturity that eventually culminates in awakening. The long journey to awakening begins in earnest with the first tentative steering of right view, the discernment by which one recognizes the validity of the Four Noble Truths and the principle of karma, or what we call karma. One begins to see that one's future well-being is neither predestined by fate, nor left to the whims of of a divine being or random chance. The responsibility for one's happiness rests squarely on one's own shoulder. Seeing this one's spiritual aims become suddenly clear. To relinquish the habitual unskillful tendencies of the mind in favor of skillful ones. As this right resolve grows stronger, so does the heartfelt desire to live a morally upright life, to choose one's actions with care. At this point, many followers make the inward commitment to take the Buddha's teaching to heart, to become Buddhist through the act of taking refuge in the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, the historical Buddha and the one's own innate potential for awakening. Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings in the ultimate truth towards which they point. The Sangha, the unbroken monastic lineage that has preserved the teaching since the Buddha's day, and all those who have achieved at least some degree of awakening. With one's feet thus planted on solid ground, and with the help of an admirable friend or teacher, Kalyanamita, to guide the way, one is now well equipped to proceed down the path, following in the footsteps left by the Buddha himself. Kalyana means good and Mita means friend. Sa Budismo, ang Kalyanamita ay tinatawag na spiritual na kaibigan o gabay. Sila or virtue. Right view and right resolve continue to mature through the development of the path factors associated with sila or virtue, namely, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. So, sa virtue or sila, dito naman nabubuo ang tatlo sa nilalaman ng Eightfold Paths, ang right speech, right action, and right livelihood. These are condensed into a very practical form in the five precepts, the basic code of ethical conduct to which every practicing Buddhist subscribes, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and using intoxicants. Even the monks' complex code of 227 rules and the nuns' 311 ultimately have five basic precepts of their core. So, ang mga Buddha o kahit ang mga monghe raw ay sinasanay na maiwasan ang mga maling gawain na ito. Concentration or samadhi. Having gained a foothold in the purification of one's outward behavior through the practice of sila, the essential groundwork has been laid for delving into the most subtle transformative aspect of the path, meditation and the development of samadhi or concentration. This is spelled out in detail in the final three path factors. So sa samadhi, dito ay nakapaloob ang tatlo sa mga natitira sa Noble of Eightfold Paths, which is yung right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right effort, by which one learns how to favor skillful qualities of mind over unskillful ones. Right mindfulness, by which one learns to keep one's attention continually grounded in the present moment of experience. And right concentration, by which one learns to immerse the mind so truly and unwaveringly in the meditation object that it enters jhana, a series of progressively deeper state of mental and physical tranquility or deeper state of meditation. Right mindfulness and right concentration are developed in tandem through satipatthana, frames of reference or foundation of mindfulness, a systematic approach to meditation practice that embraces a wide range of skills and techniques. Of these practices, mindfulness of the body, especially mindfulness of breathing, is particularly effective at bringing into balance the twin qualities of tranquility and insight or clear seeing. Through persistent practice, the meditation becomes more adept at bringing the combined powers of samatha vipassana to bear an exploration of the fundamentals nature of mind and body. As the meditator masters the ability to frame his immediate experience in terms of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, even the subtlest manifestation of these three characteristics of experience are brought into exquisitely sharp focus. At the same time, the root cause of dukkha craving relentlessly exposed to the light of awareness. Eventually, craving is left with no place to hide. The entire karmic process that fabricates dukkha unravels the eightfold path to reach the noble climax, and the meditator gains at long last his or her first unmistakable glimpse of the unconditioned nibbana, awakening. The first enlightenment experience, known as stream entry Sotapatti, is the first of four progressive stages of awakening, each of which entails the irreversible shedding or weakening of several fetters samyojana, the manifestation of ignorance that bind a person to the cycle of birth and death. Stream entry marks an unprecedented and radical turning point both in the practitioner's current life and the entirety of his or her long journey in samsara, or in a person's past life. For it is the point that any lingering doubts about the truth of the Buddha's teaching disappear. It is the point that any beliefs in the purifying efficacy of the rites and rituals evaporates. And it is at this point that the long-cherished notion of abiding personal self falls away. The stream enterer is said to be assured of no more than 7 futures rebirth before eventually attaining full awakening. But full awakening is still a long way off. As the practitioner presses on with renewed diligence, he or she passes through two more significant landmarks. Once returning sa Kadagati, which is accompanied by the weakening of the fetters of sensual desire and ill will, and non-returning Agati, in which these two fetters are uprooted altogether. The final stage of awakening, Arahata, occurs when even the most refined and subtle levels of craving and conceit are irrevocably extinguished. At this point, the practitioner, now an arahant or worthy one, arrives in the endpoint of the Buddha's teaching, with ignorance, suffering, stress, and rebirth having all comes to their end. The arahant at last can utter the victory cry first proclaimed by the Buddhas upon his awakening. Birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There is nothing further for the sake of this world.
Dangal greetings, I'm Daniela Penaso and this is History of Theravada. Theravada is one of the two major traditions of Buddhism, the other being Mahayana. The Theravada can be traced back to the Buddha himself, who taught his followers the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path to Liberation from Suffering. Theravada Buddhism became the dominant form of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, where it was brought by the Indian monk Mahinda in 3rd century BCE. Over centuries, Theravada is spread to parts of Southeast Asia, including Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. In the late 19th and early 20th century, Theravada faced challenges from colonialism and modernization, as well as from the growth of secularism and other religions. Now, Theravada Buddhism is characterized by its emphasis on individual practice and attainment of enlightenment through meditation and cultivation of wisdom. Its teaching offers a path of liberation from suffering, which is seen as the ultimate goal of human existence. Ang Theravada ay isang partikular na sangay ng Budismo na nagmula sa Sri Lanka at pangunahing ginagawa sa Timog Silangang Asya. Ito ay sumusunod sa mga turo ng palikanon na pinaniniwalaan na ang pinakaunang naitala ng mga turo ng Buddha. Mayroon iba pang sangay ng Budismo tulad ng Mahayana at Zen. Ang bawat isa sa mga sangay na ito ay may sariling natatanging mga turo at kasanayan, at lahat ay itinuturing na bahagi ng mas malaking payong ng Budismo. Kaya't ang dahilan kung bakit mayroong Theravada ay ito ay isang natatanging tradisyon sa loob ng Budismo na may sariling itong hanay ng mga paniniwala at gawain tulad ng anumang iba pang sangay ng Budismo. Maraming mga istorya kung paano ipinasa ang partikular na sektor ng Budismo mula sa henerasyon hanggang sa henerasyon. Ang isang kwento ay nagsalaysay ang Buddha sa kanyang kamatayan. Ay hinikayat ang kanyang alagad na si Ananda na pangalagaan ang kanyang mga turo. Habang isa naman ay nasasangkot ng isang alagad na may pangalan na Mahakasapa, na nagdaos ng isang konseho ng mga arhat upang italaga ang mga turo ng Buddha sa nagsulat pagkatapos ng kanyang kamatayan.
Dangal greetings, I'm Glacial Irish Erandio. Theravada comes west. Until the late 19th century, the teachings of Theravada were little known outside of Southern Asia, where they had flourished for some 2.5 millennia. In the past century, however, the West has begun to take notice of Theravada's unique spiritual legacy in its teachings of awakening. In recent decades, this interest has swelled with the monastic sangha from various schools within Theravada establishing dozens of monasteries across Europe and North America. Increasing numbers of lay meditation centers founded and operated independently of the monastic sangha strain to meet the demands of laymen and women, Buddhists and otherwise seeking to learn selected aspects of the Buddha's teaching. The teachings that promote the qualities of which you may know, these qualities lead to passion, not to dispassion, to being fettered, not to being unfettered, to accumulating, not to shedding, to self-aggrandizement, not to modesty, to discontent, not to contentment, to entanglement, not to seclusion, to laziness, not to arouse persistence, to being burdensome, not to being unburdensome. You may categorically hold this is not the Dhamma, this is not the Vinaya, and this is not the teacher's instruction. As for the teachings that promote the qualities of which you may know, these qualities lead to dispassion, not to passion, to being unfettered, not to being fettered, to shedding, not to accumulating, to modesty, not to self-aggrandizement, to contentment, not to discontent, to seclusion, not to entanglement, to aroused persistence, not to laziness, to be unburdensome, not to being burdensome. You may categorically hold this is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, this is the teacher's instruction. Bali dun sa dalawa na the teachings that promote and yung as the teachings that promote is magkaiba sila. Bali nagkabaliktad silang dalawa. Kasi yung the teachings that promote is siya is hindi Dhamma, hindi siya Vinaya, at saka siya is not teacher's instruction. And yung as for the teachings that promote is siya is Dhamma and siya is Vinaya and teacher's instruction. Spiritual teachings of every description inundate the media and the marketplace today. Many of today's popular spiritual teachings borrow liberally from Buddha. Thought only rarely do they place the Buddha's words in their true context. Earnest seekers of truth are therefore often faced with the unsavory task of reading through fragmentary teachings of dubious accuracy. How are we to make sense of it all? Fortunately, the Buddha left us with some simple guidelines to help us navigate through his bewildering flood whenever you find yourself questioning the authenticity of particular teaching. Heed well the Buddha's advice to his stepmother.
Sir, I'm Rich Jan Importante and this is my part for our reporting. Dumako po tayo sa next topic. Theravada believes the supernatural. Many faiths offer supernatural solutions to the spiritual problems of human beings. Buddhism does not. The basis of all forms of Buddhism is to use meditation for awakening or enlightenment, not outside powers. Supernatural powers are not disregarded, but they are incidental, and the Buddha warned against them as fetters on the path. So, yun, the supernatural. Maraming paniniwala or maraming faiths ang nag-offer ng supernatural solutions para din sa mga may spiritual problems na human beings. Pero yung Buddhism ay hindi naniniwala doon. Bakit? Dahil ang basis nila ay meditation for awakening or enlightenment. Nagme-meditation sila para ma-awake or para makamit nila yung tinatawag na enlightenment, not outside powers. Supernatural powers are not disregarded naman, but they are incidental, and the Buddha warned against them. So yung si Buddha ay nagbabala para dun sa mga yon, sa mga gumagamit nun as fetters on the path. So sunod ay the Buddha. So sino nga ba si Buddha? Si Buddha. So si Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a man who became Buddha, the awakened one, much in the same way as Jesus became Christ. So Siddhartha Gautama ay naging Buddha. So na-awaken niya yun. Tapos may pagkakaparehas sila ni Jesus nung siya ay naging Kristo. So since his death, ang only contact lang sa kanya ay ang sa pamamagitan ng kanyang mga pagtuturo na naglilid sa awakened state na tinatawag. So sunod ay ang God. There's no omnipotent creator. God of the sort found in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Gods exist as various types of spiritual being but with limited powers. So si God, para sa kanila, iba sa kanila si God. So yung mga nakita natin sa Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, kung sa kanila or sa atin makapangyarihan si God and walang ganyang kapangyarihan niya, sa kanila ay si God ay nag-exist as various types of spiritual being, pero limited yung kanyang kapangyarihan or limited ang kanyang powers. So bale, limitado lang ang kanyang nagagawa para sa Theravada Buddhism. So sunod na yun, the path of enlightenment. So each being has to make their own way to enlightenment without the help of God or gods. Buddha's teachings show the way, but making the journey is up to us. So ayun nga, bawat isa sa atin ay merong own way para makapunta sa enlightenment, and kailangan nating makita yun ng walang tulong ng Diyos, ng gods, or ng God or ni God or ng mga gods, ganon. So yung pagtuturo ni Buddha ay nagpapakita ng daan kung paano nila makakamit yung enlightenment na yon, but making the journey or yung parang paggawa mo ng paglalakbay patungo doon is nasa sa atin, is up to us. So ayun, dumako naman tayo sa Theravada Buddhist beliefs. So padugtong nga ito nung kanina. So ayan, the two fundamental concepts of Theravada Buddhism, may dalawang concept siya. So itong tinatawag na Nirvana and Arhat. Nirvana is the perfect place that is free from all suffering. So itong Nirvana ay tinatawag nilang perfect place, kumaga perfectong lugar siya na ang katangian niya ay free from all suffering. So wala nang tinatawag na paghihirap. So ito yung ultimate goal ng Theravada. So ayan, the ultimate goal of Theravada Buddhism is to attain nirvana at the end of the cycle of their lives. So ang goal nila ay makamit or mapuntahan tong nirvana sa kanilang kamatayan or at the end of the cycle of their lives. So this is also the immediate goal of Theravada Buddhist monks. So ito ay goal din siya ng Buddhist monks, so who are the only individuals in Theravada Buddhism who can achieve this state of directly after this life. So yung mga Buddhist monks, tinagurian silang mga individuals who dwell in nirvana. So ayan, Sila yung may kakayahang maka-achieve ng state na directly dito sa buhay na to. So, yan. Tinatawag silang arhat. Yung arhat is, which means perfect being or perfectly enlightened being. So, sila yon yung mga Buddhist monks. Tinatawag silang perfect being. So, dumako naman tayo sa mga four steps para matawag kang arhat or para maging arhat. 4 steps in the path to becoming an arhat. So, ito nga yun. Una ay sotapan, meaning stream enterer. Ano nga ba yung sotapana? Yon, sotapana, meaning stream enter. This is the first stage of entering the enlightened consciousness of those who have realized the ultimate truths of Dharma. So, sila yung mga na-realize yung mga ultimate truths ng Dharma. The truths taught by Buddha. So, itong Dharma ay tinuro ni Buddha na tinatawag ding ultimate truths. Once true realization of these truths has been achieved, Sotapanna will never be reborn in a state below that of humanity. So, yung sa oras na ma-achieve mo daw tong once realization ng Sotapanna or mga turo ni Buddha, yung Sotapanna will never be reborn in state below that of humanity. So, dumako tayo dun sa pangalawa. Pangalawa ay ang Sakadagami, meaning once returner. So, these individuals are one rebirth away from being freed from the physical or temporal senses. So, yung once returner daw or yung tinatawag nila Sakadagami is ito yung mga individuals na nag-rebirth away from being freed from the physical or temporal senses. So, sila yung parang mga nakalaya dun sa ganun. So, sunod ay ang Anagami, meaning non-returner. These people will never be reborn into the realm of the senses. All subsequent rebirths will occur in the pure lands of the Buddhas, the 5 superior realms. So, ayan, pinaniniwalaan nilang Anagami, meaning non-returner. Yung taong daw yun ay hindi na daw magre-reborn into the realm of senses. So, all subsequent rebirths will occur in the pure lands. So, mag-occur daw siya sa pure lands ng mga Buddhas na tinatawag din the 5 superior realms. So, pang number 4 ay Arhat. So, these fully awakened and enlightened individuals will never be reborn again in any form of existence. They have broken the cycle of rebirths and are freed from suffering. So, sila yung mga na-broken yung cycle ng rebirths and malaya na sila sa pagsasuffer or paghihirap.
Monastic life. Most Theravada monks live as part of monastic communities. Some join as young as 7, but one can join at any age. A novice is called as a manera and a full monk is called bhikkhu. The monastic community as a whole is called the Sangha. Bali, ito yung tumutukoy sa pamumuhay ng mga monghe sa loob ng kumbento o monasteryo. Ito ay isang mahalagang bahagi ng kultura ng mga Buddhism sa Southeast Asia. Base na sa PowerPoint, mayroong ilang sumasali sa edad na 7 taon, ngunit maaari rin namang sumali ang kahit anong edad. Ang novice o baguhan ay tinatawag na samanera at ang isang buong monghe ay tinatawag na bhikkhu. Dagdag pa rito, sila ay nagsusuot ng robes na color saffron at naglalakad ng nakapaa o walang suot na tsinelas or sapatos. Sila ay nag-aayuno at nakatira sa mga maliit na kwarto at mayroong maliit na mga kama at mga gamit. Ang mga monghe ay hindi nag-aasawa at hindi nagkakaroon ng mga ari-arian. Sa halip sila ay nakatuon sa pagkakaroon ng espiritual na karanasan at paglilingkod sa komunidad. Their life is focused on having sacred experiences and serving their fellow men. Monks undertake the training of the monastic order, which consists of 227 rules. Within these rules or perceptions are five which are undertaken by all those trying to adhere to a Buddhist way of life. They have five precepts are to undertake the role of training to. One is refrain from harming living beings. Two is refrain from taking that which is not freely given. Three is refrain from sexual misconduct. Four is refrain from wrong speech, such as lying, idle chatter, malicious gossip, or harsh speech. And the last is refrain from intoxicating drink and drugs, which is lead to carelessness. Of particular interest is the fact that Theravadan monks and nuns are not permitted to eat after midday or handle money. Nuns are also similar to monks. They have been clean-shaven heads but wear pinks and orange robes.
Greetings everyone, my name is Ella Ibanez. Theravada life. Theravada Buddhism emphasizes attaining self-liberation through one's own efforts. Meditation and concentration are vital elements of the way to enlightenment. The ideal road is to dedicate oneself to full-time monastic life. The follower is expected to abstain from all kinds of evil, to accumulate all that is good and to purify their mind. Meditation is one of the main tools by which a Theravada Buddhist transform themselves, and so a monk spends a great deal of time in meditation. When a person achieves liberation and they are called a worthy person, an arhat or arahat. Despite the monastic emphasis, Theravada Buddhism has a substantial role and place for lay followers. Ang buhay ng Theravada ay nakasentro sa apat na noble truths na siyang pundasyon ng pilosopiyang Budista. Itinuturo ng mga katotohanan ito na ang pagdurusa ay isang hindi maiiwasang bahagi ng buhay, ngunit posibleng madaig ang pagdurusa sa pamamagitan ng pagsunod sa Eightfold Paths. Sa mga komunidad ng Theravada, ang pang-araw-araw na buhay kadalasan nakasentro sa templo at sa mga turo ng Buddha. Ang buhay ng Theravada ay nilalarawan sa pamamagitan ng isang malakas na pangako sa mga turo ng mga Buddha at isang pagtutok ng individual sa pagsisikap at pagsasanay sa pagtugis ng kaliwanagan. Two forms of meditation. Samatha, calming meditation. This is the earliest form of meditation. It is not unique to Buddhism. It used to make mind calmer and take the person higher jhanic states. Jhanic states are hard to explain. Simply states of consciousness is probably the closest, easiest understandable definition. The effects of samatha meditation are temporary. Ang layunin ng samatha meditation ay ang kalmado ang isip at bumuo ng kakayahan na mapanatili ang atensyon ng isang tao na makatulong sa pagbuo ng insight sa vipassana meditation. Vipassana, insight meditation. This form of meditation is used to achieve insight into the true nature of things. This is very difficult to get because human beings are used to seeing things distorted by their preconceptions, options, and past experience. Ang layunin ng pagmumuni ng vipassana ay upang makakuha ng pananaw sa kalikasan ng katotohanan at ang impermanence, lahat ng bagay na humahantong sa paglaya mula sa pagdurusa. Lay people and monks. The code of behavior for lay people is much less strict than that for monks. They follow the 5 basic Buddhist principles that have already been mentioned. While lay people and monks have distinct roles in practice of Theravada Buddhism, they are considered to be equal in terms of their potential for spiritual progress and realization. Makakamit ng mga lay people ang spiritual na pagising sa pamamagitan ng masipag na pagsasanay tulad na magagawa ng mga monghe. Ang parehong mga lay at monghe ay tinuturing na mahalaga para sa pangangalaga at paghahatid ng mga turo ng Buddha. At sila ay nagtutulungan upang lumikha ng isang maayos at sumusuportang komunidad ng Budismo. Retreats. Monasteries often have facilities for lay people to stay in retreat. The accommodation is usually basic and one has to abide by 8 precepts. Retreats provide an opportunity to temporarily step away from the responsibilities of everyday life and dedicate oneself fully meditation, study, and contemplation. Ang mga retreat ay isang mahalagang paraan upang mapalalim ang pagsasanay ng isang tao at kumonekta sa komunidad ng Budista. Nag-aalok sila ng isang suportadong kapaligiran para sa masinsinang pagsasanay at maaaring makatulong upang linangin ang isang pakiramdam ng panloob na kapayapaan at kalinawan. Ceremonies and Commemoration Days. These are numerous ceremonies and commemoration days which lay people celebrate, such as Wesak, which marks the birth and enlightenment, and Paribana, passing away of the Buddha. For these events, everyone converge on the local temples. Theravada Buddhism also includes many other rituals and practices, such as chanting, offering to the Buddha, and pilgrimage to holy spirits. These ceremonies and practices are meant to help practitioners deepen their understanding of the Dharma and cultivate their spiritual practice. A strong relationship. The relationship between monks and lay people in Theravada Buddhism is very strong. This is a type of Buddhism could not, in fact, exist in its present form without this interaction. It is a way of mutual support. Lay people supply food, medicine, and clothes for robes, and monks give spiritual support, blessing, and teachings. But this is not a need for that situation. Monks are not allowed to request anything from lay people, and lay people cannot demand anything from the monks. The spirit of it is more in the nature of open-hearted giving. The system works well and so firmly established in most Theravadan countries that monks are usually provide for, depending on the wealth or poverty the local people. Similarly, friendships are also highly valued in Theravada Buddhism. Friends are seen as a source of comfort, support, and encouragement, as well as means of cultivating wholesome qualities such as kindness, generosity, and empathy. Strong relationships are viewed as a vital component of path towards spiritual awakening in Theravada Buddhism, as they provide a supportive and nurturing environment for cultivation of wholesome qualities and the development of wisdom and compassion.
Pali, the language of Theravada Buddhism. The language of the Theravada canonical text is Pali, which is based on a dialect of Middle Indo-Aryan that was probably spoken in Central India during the Buddha's time, when Ananda, the Buddha's cousin and a close personal attendant, committed the Buddha's sermons to memory and thus became a living repository of these teachings. Shortly after the Buddha's death, 500 of the most senior monks, including Ananda, convened to recite the verify all of the sermons they had heard during the Buddha's 45-year teaching career. Most of the sermons therefore begin with the disclaimer, Eva me sutam, it means thus I have heard. Pali was originally a spoken language with no alphabet of its own. It wasn't until about 100 BCE that the Tipitaka was first fixed in writing by Sri Lanka's scribe monks, who wrote the Pali phonetically in a form of early Brahmi script. Since then, the Tipitaka has been transliterated into many different scripts. Since then, the Tipitaka has been transliterated transliterated into many different scripts. Although English translations of the most popular Tipitaka texts abound, many students of Theravada find that learning the Pali language, even just a little bit here and there, greatly depends their understanding and appreciation of the Buddha's teachings. The Pali Vinaya Pitaka, or basket of the disciplines, is still in a theory role in Theravada monasteries, even though some sections have fallen into disuse. It is divided into 5 major parts grouped into 3 divisions: Sutta Vibhanga, Kandakas, Paribara. The largest of the 3 baskets is the Sutta Pitaka, which consists of 5 collections of the Buddha's discourses. From a literary viewpoint, many of the discourses can appear to be drawn out and repetitive. However, they are characterized by sublimity of thought and employ rich, beautiful illustrative similes. The third basket is the Abhidhamma Pitaka, comprises 7 works, although based on the content of the Buddha's discourses. They deal with topics that were central to Theravada scholastic thought. The Pali version is strictly Theravada collection and has little in common with the Abhidhamma works recognized by other Buddhist schools. Ang Pali ay wika na ginagamit sa canonical text of Theravada Buddhism. Ito ay isang sinaunang wika na ginamit sa India noong unang panahon at ginamit sa pagpapalaganap ng mga turo ng Buddha. Ang karamihan sa mga kasulatan ng Theravada ay nasa Pali, kabilang ang Tipitaka o ang 3 sangay ng mga canonical text. Ang Pali ay isa sa mga wika ng Sanskrit at ang mga salita nito ay may mga kahulugan na malapit sa mga salitang ginagamit sa iba't ibang mga wika sa Asya. Ang wika ay binubuo ng mga salitang may mga kahulugang pang-espiritual at pang-relihiyon. Sa kasalukuyan, ang Pali ay ginagamit sa mga pag-aaral ng Buddhism at sa mga seremonya ng Theravada Buddhism. Maraming mga tao ang nag-aaral ng Pali upang mas maintindihan ang mga kasulatan ng Theravada at upang maging mas malalim ang kanilang pag-unawa sa mga turo ng Buddha. Si Ben Ananda naman ang nagtala ng mga sermon ni Buddha. Siya is naging mahalagang tao sa pagpapalaganap ng mga aral ni Buddha. Siya rin ang nagpakalat ng mga kagamitang pang-espiritual tulad ng kasuotan, pagkain, at pagpapahalaga sa kalikasan. Marami sa mga tao ay may pangunahing kaalaman tungkol sa buhay ni Buddha at ang kanyang mga aral. Si Buddha is isang Indian philosophy na nakahatagpo ng enlightenment o pagkamalay sa kanyang tunay na kalikasan. Ang kanyang mga aral ay naglalayong magbigay ng kalinawan at magturo ng tamang pag-uugali at pananaw sa buhay. This aim to help improve the condition of people in the world.
Individual discourses and anthologies from the Pali Canon. Theravada, Poems of the First Buddhists, Mahaparibhana Sutta, Early Buddhist Discourses, The Heart of Buddhist Meditation.
Eknath Iswaran, Peter Feldmeier, Valery Roebuck, Sangharashita.
Early non-canonical texts in Pali. So, ano nga ba ito? The non-canonical literature of Theravada Buddhism consists to a large extent. So, nagko-consist siya sa large or malaking extent of commentaries on the Tipitaka text, but also includes other works. Prominent among the exponents of Buddhism who attempt to harmonize its apparently conflicting teachings and grasp the inner meaning of its doctrine were Nagasena, Buddhaghosha, Buddhata, and Dhammapala. So, dito sa topic na to, isa-isahin natin sila kung saan ito nagsimula, kung ano yung history nila, kung ano yung pinagmulan nila, kung ano yung mga naging ambag nila dun sa non-canonical text sa Pali. So, simulan natin kay Milinda Pana. Questions of King Menander, or tinatawag siyang Questions of King Menander. So, traditionally attributed to the Nagasena. So, it's one of the great achievements of Indian prose and was probably written at the time of Menander, 160 to 35 BCE. So, ito yung story niya, or dito nagsimula yung story niya. The author begins with an account of his own past lives. So, sinimulan ng author yung story sa past lives niya. Tapos, sinama niya na din yung kay King Menander. So, because events in those lives will cause the two to meet again in this life. So, Menander, a well-informed scholar and keen debater. So, well-informed scholar siya and keen debater din. So, is disheartened when no one is able to solve problems he raises regarding Buddhist teachings. So, pag walang nakakaresolba ng problema, tinuturuan niya yung mga tao ng Buddhist teachings para ma-inspired, ganyan. Impressed by the serenity of the monk Nagasena. So, yun nga, tinuturuan niya. Parang, na-impress kasi siya or na-influensyan siya ng the serenity of the monk Nagasena. So, tinuturuan niya yung mga tao ng Buddhist teachings para magkaroon sila ng paniniwala, no? So, ayan. The king visits him in his monastery. Their conversation at the monastery and later the king's place is the subject matter of Milindapana. So, dito na nagsimula yung Milindapana, which presents a profound and comprehensive exposition of Buddhist doctrines, ethics, and psychology. So, nung nabuo na yung Milindapana, nagpepresenta siya sa comprehensive exposition of Buddhist doctrine, ethics, and psychology. So, ayan. This work, like several other non-canonical texts, contains a chariot analogy all to the parts of chariot put together in specific way constitute the chariot. There is no chariot as such over and above its parts. Similarly, the various components of an individual human being make up the individual, but there is no entity that actually holds the components together. Number 2. Visuddhimagga, or in Pali, the path of purification, a greatly revered compendium of Theravada teaching. Buddhaghosa also wrote commentaries on the Vinaya Pali, the first 4 Nikayas, Pali and Sanskrit, and the 7 books of Abhidhamma Pitaka. Thought the exact chronology of their composition cannot be determined. 3. Jadakas includes the most famous biography of the Buddha in Pali. It begins with the hero's vow made in a previous life to become a Buddha and concludes with his purported stay at the Jetavana monastery, where he told the 547 stories that follow. So, ito yung mga tales na nagpapatungkol sa past lives ni Buddha. So, ang pangalan nito ay The Jataka, Tales of the Buddha's Past Life. So, ang una ay ang Jataka's Stories in Theravada Buddhism. Tapos yung pangalawa ay Once the Buddha Was a Monkey. Tapos yung pangatlo ay Vesantava Jataka. Tapos yung pang-apat ay The Jataka is tumutungkol din to sa story ni Buddha. 4. Abhidhammavatara, or in Pali, The Coming of Abhidhamma. Taught a summary of the older works of the Abhidhamma Pitaka is one of the most important commentaries on the basket. While Buddhaghosa ideas were similar to those of Buddhaghosa, he did not follow Buddhaghosa blindly. Instead, he reduced Buddhaghosa's 5 metaphysical ultimates: form, feeling, sensation, motivations, and perception, to 4: mind, mental, events, forms, and nirvana. Number 5. Paramatha Dipani, or in Pali, elucidation of the true meaning. a commentary on the several books of the Khuddaka Nikaya in the Paramatha Manjusa, or in Pali, Jewel Box of the True Meaning, a commentary on Buddhaghosa's Vidsu Himaga, Dhammapala quotes a verse from the Hindu scripture Bhagavad Gita, and frequently mentions the views of the other schools and teachers. Abhidhamma, the higher teaching. So, dito makikita natin yung mga iba't ibang libro na nagpapatungkol sa Abhidhamma, higher teaching. So, ang una is Theravada Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma Studies yung pangalawa. Tapos, Comprehensive Manual Abhidhamma. Tapos yung pang-apat ay Abhidhamma Literature and the Origins of the Buddhist Philosophical Systems.
Theravadian literature includes cosmology. The Pali Tipitaka outlines a hierarchical cosmological system with various planes existence or bhava, into which sentient beings may be reborn depending on their past actions. Good actions lead one to the higher realms, bad actions lead to the lower realms. However, even for the god Divas in higher realms like Indra and Vishnu, there is still death, loss, and suffering. This is divided into main categories: the Aropavava, the formless or incorporeal plane; the Kamavava, the plane of desires; and Rupa Bhava, the plane of form. In soteriology and Buddhology, according to Theravada doctrine, release from suffering is attained in 4 stages of awakening or body. The first one is dream enterers, the second one is once returners, the third one is the non-returners, and the fourth one is the arahants. In Theravada Buddhism, a Buddha is a sentient being who has discovered the path of samsara by themselves, has reached nibbana, and then make the paths available to others by teaching. The Theravada canon depicts Gautama Buddha as being the most recent Buddha in a line of previous Buddhas stretching back for aeons. They have also mentioned the future Buddha named Maitreya. Traditionally, the Theravada school also rejects the idea that there can be numerous Buddhas active in the world at the same time.
Later Theravada literature. So, itong history ng later Theravada literature, during and after the revival and spread of the Theravada in the early centuries, the second millennium CE, a new corpus of Theravada literature came into being. So, after the revival and nung pagkalat ng Theravada dun sa mga early centuries sa second millennium CE, merong new corpus of Theravada literature came into being. So, merong Theravada literature na naging parang nabuo. Ganon. This corpus includes commentaries and other works written in Pali in Sri Lanka. So, may kinalaman to dun sa kanina nating tinalakay na mga commentaries na ginawa ng mga nabanggit natin kanina. So, and the Theravada countries of the Southeast Asia, as well as many important texts written in Sinhalese, Burmese style, Laotian, and Khmer. So, meron bukod sa Sri Lanka, meron pang lugar na nababanggit as Theravada countries of Southeast Asia, as well as many important texts written in Sinhalese, Burmese, Thai, Laotian, and Khmer. So, meron ding bukod sa Southeast Asia, Theravada countries sila tinatawag silang Theravada countries of Southeast Asia. So, dito nabibilang yung mga important texts at nakasulat sila dito sa iba't ibang lugar, no? Bale, hiwa-hiwalay sila, no? Kasi merong text written sa Sinhalese, sa Burmese, sa Thai, sa Laotian, and sa Khmer. So, one of the important Pali texts is the Mangala Dipani. So, Itong Mangala Dipani, isa siya sa pinakamahalaga, pinaka-importanting text na masasabi mong talaga, sobrang mahalaga niya itong Mangala Dipani, a highly respected commentary. So, highly respected commentary. So, nire-respeto tong commentary na to. On the Mangala Sutta that was written in the northern Thailand in the 16th century, important vernacular texts include the 14th century Tribhumikata, or 3 words according to the King Ruang, which is the oldest known full-length text written in Thai. So, itong tinatawag nilang text na nakasama or na-include sa 14th century Tribhumikata, or sa English is 3 words according to King Ruang, which is the oldest known full-length text written in Thai. So, siya yung pinakamatanda na full-length, mahaba text written in Thai na nakasulat siya in Thai language. And the Buddhadhamma, a 20th century work by Thai monk Prayut Payutto. So, ito yung isa sa text na nakasulat nun sa 20th century ay tinatawag na Buddhadhamma, no? Work siya, kinreate siya or ginawa siya ni Thai monk Prayut Payutto.
The Vinaya Pitaka, the code form of monastic life. These rules are followed by Buddhist monks and nuns who recite the 227 rules twice a month. The Vinaya Pitaka of the three division Pitakas of the Pali Canon in Theravada Buddhism, which contains the rule and regulation of monastic life. It is considered to be the oldest and most comprehensive Buddhist code of conduct. The Sutta Pitaka, teaching of the Buddha. This contains the whole of Buddhist philosophy and ethics. It includes the Dhammapada, which means the essence of Buddha's teaching. The Sutta Pitaka is one of the three Pitakas or basket that comprise the Pali Canon, the sacred scripture of the Theravada Buddhism. The Sutta Pitaka consists of more than 1,000 discourses as tribute to the Buddha and his close disciples, and is organized into 5 collections or nikayas. The Abhidhamma Pitaka, supplementary philosophy and religious teaching. The texts have remained unaltered since they were written down. Buddhist monks in the Theravada tradition consider it important to learn sections of this text by heart. The Abhidhamma Pitaka is one of the 3 Pitakas or collection of teachings in the Theravada Buddhist tradition. It is considered to the most complex and philosophical of the 3 Pitakas and is primarily concerned with the analysis and explanation of the fundamental nature of reality. A Burmese Pali palm leaf manuscript of Manani Desa, a Buddhist text showing 3 different types of Burmese script. At top, medium square. In the center, round. At the bottom, outline round in red lacquer. From inside, one of the manuscript's gilded covers. A Thai Buddhist palm leaf manuscript, pictured with a metal stylus used to separate pages or mark one's place. The cover boards are finely painted in gold on black lacquer with scrolling foliage. The foredge of the palm leaves is gilded with a center band of vermilion bordered with a delicately patterned motif. This manuscript was transcribed during the first half of the 19th century.
Many of letters, many Buddhas, Antirotman, Divine Stories, Theravada Part 1 and Part 2, Bhikkhu Yanatasita, the Bhikkhu Patimokkha, Piyadasitera, the Book of Protection, Mark Allen, Alice Collett, Brian Gillespie, Sarah Shaw, Evita Schulman. The serious pursuit of happiness. The Buddha based his teachings on a frank assessment of our plight as human. There is unsatisfactoriness and suffering in the world. No one can argue this fact. Dukkha lurks behind even the highest forms of worldly pleasure and joy. For sooner or later, as surely as night follows day, that happiness must come to an end. Were the Buddha's teachings to stop there, we might indeed regard them as pessimistic and life as utterly hopeless. But, like a doctor who prescribes a remedy of our life illness, the Buddha offers both a hope, the third noble truth, and a cure, the fourth. The Buddha's teachings thus give cause for unparalleled optimism and joy. The teachings offer us the reward the noblest, just kind of happiness, and give profound value and meaning to an otherwise grim existence. One other teacher summed it up well: Buddhism is the serious pursuit of happiness.
Giving dana is an important Buddhist virtue. The community of monastics is seen as the most meritorious field of karmic fruitfulness. Sila, meaning moral conduct, is mainly defined as right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which is part of the Eightfold Paths of Buddhism. It is primarily understood through the doctrine of karma. In Theravada, one's previous intentional actions strongly influence one's present experience. Several sets of precepts or moral trainings guide right action. After taking refuge in the Triple Gems, later Vedan Buddhists traditionally take the five precepts in the presence of Sangha. Lay people also sometimes take an extended set of 8 precepts, which includes chastity during sacred days of observance such as Uposatha. The 10 wholesome actions is a common list of good deeds. The first one is generosity or dana, the second is moral conduct, third is meditation, fourth is the dedication of merit, rejoicing in merit of good deeds done by others, rendering service to others, honoring others, preaching or sharing the Dhamma, listening to Dhamma, and having right view or samadhi. One of the most important structures in Theravada history include the Tuparamaya Stupa, the earliest stupa after Theravada Buddhism became the official religion in Sri Lanka, dating back to the reign of King Devanampiya Tissa, and the Ruwanwalisaya Stupa built by the Sri Lankan King Dutugemuno. So a stupa is considered as a shrine for the Theravadan believers, and it can also serve as a burial site or a religious place for them to do their practices. So why is a stupa built? So according to our source, burial stupas hold relics from funeral pyre. Commemorative stupas mark the place of an event or occasion in Buddha's life. And lastly, votive stupas are erected to make a dedication of goodwill to accumulate merit to someone who did something very honorable for them to be thankful. Global Vipassana Pagoda, Maharashtra, India. S.N. Goenka laid the foundation for the structure in 2000, and the pagoda opened in 2009. Regular meditation courses are held at the complex. So this structure is basically a meditation dome made for the believers.
This concludes our discussion about Theravada. Sana may nabaon kayong aral at mas maunawaan nyo ang religion nila. Bago kami magpaalam, here are the set of questions na pinipare namin as an activity. Isusulat nyo lang po sa yellow paper at 50 words lang ang minimum. Para po makuha ang points, ibahagi nyo lang ang sagot nyo sa 2 questions sa comment section. And kapag hinart yan, ay pasok kayo sa top 10 na mabibigyan ng point. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Group 6 and we hope you have a wonderful day ahead.